Hello, hi everyone. Welcome to a fourth episode of Mentors Off Script. And today we have a really cool topic, really crazy topic that is one of the most important topics in business. And today the topic is leadership necessary to build a business and to have success in your business? Is it overrated? Is it underrated? And we have all the panel. You probably see in a second. Everyone again, all the mentors in here. We had a good conversation a couple of days ago about it, and we had so many different opinions that we thought it would be really, really good for you to actually share it with you guys. So in terms of leadership, what I generally believe, just to throw out there, is that leadership is relationship with people. And if you want to have a bigger business, not be just a solo entrepreneur on yourself, even if you are, but mainly if you have a bigger business, you need to be able to have that good relationship, which is a skill. What that means for me is you have to look after people when they need help, and when they're really doing good, give them opportunity to grow their own and their own skills and chase after their own goals. So I think it's very, very important, one of the cores. But then I had really, really good conversation with some of the guys in here, and they had really good points that make me think twice. So let's share it. What do you guys think? Who thinks what?
Everyone thinks something, I guess.
Sorry.
Before we go into that what a great intro, Peter. What was the head turn about? What was that?
Blue steel.
I was reading some notes. It's my first time, so I was a bit nervous. I was reading
notes. I was fully planned by you. 3, 2, 1. Hi guys. Welcome to the fourth.
I think you should make a meme.
Don't take it, man. Hey, has anyone seen, there was really nice video actually. There's not about leadership. What was the guy called? He died recently. King. What was his show? I forgot his first name now. It was the longest talk show, pretty much.
Larry King.
Larry King, Larry King.
Yeah.
And it was really Brandon Butcher's, I think, video was, one of the first videos with Larry King, how he said how first day he was the DJ and how music kept on playing and he wouldn't dare to say anything when his first ever time got a job. And his manager kicked the door in and said, "Mate, this is communication business. Start talking." And he didn't know what to say. And his first thing he said, basically, if you've been hearing this pause in music all the time, that's just because I'm scared to talk. And this is my first day and I'm petrified. I don't know what to say. And they told me to change my name. And his name wasn't even King. It was something else I forgot, But it's like, well, but from today, basically, I'm Larry King and it's my first day. So something along the lines. And you think then he just turns out and, having this one of the biggest careers, So yeah, Peter, if you was worried, I'm sure we're all the same, But
so you know how I feel. So let me ask Alice, because I know Alice for a very, very long time, and I know she's been one of the people that showed me leadership and standards, but leadership, looking after me when I was quite new. So what's your point on it? What's your stand on it, Alice?
I think to answer in very simple words, yeah, for sure. I think you definitely need 100%. You need leadership in order to be successful, whether that is business, in our type of business, any other business, or to maybe build a career in anything else. I think 100% you need leadership, because first of all, for me, leadership is leading yourself. That's what leadership is for me. I think if you lead yourself, if you have the right drive, if you know what you want, and if you act in the right manner, you have the right standards, the ones you think are necessary for you to be as successful as you want to be, because success is so different for different people, isn't it? Yeah, maybe what success is for me might not be success for you, or for the other people out there. And I think 100%. Yeah, I agree with you. And I think leadership can be defined in so many different ways. But for me, leadership is, first of all, that part of you that says you need to lead yourself. You need to set up the goals. You need to wake up in the morning with a certain drive. You need to lead yourself, first of all, by example, and then everything else will follow. So yeah, the answer is in a nutshell. Yes, you do need. I think leadership is an important or a necessary trait in order to be successful, whatever success is.
That's actually good.
What do you think? Let me pick a wild guess.
Vishal, yeah.
I think for me, when that word leadership, I don't believe there's any.
I don't believe there's such a thing as leadership skills. I think it's multiple skills that added together equal leadership. You know, things like, as you said, goal setting, being inspiring, being motivational, being able to bring out the best in other people, you know, etc. Your charisma, confidence, you know, all these different things add together. Standards, your own personal example. So when you kind of look at all of those things, they're very important, aren't they, Alice? I mean, you know, as you said, it starts with yourself, and to have any kind of successful business, it does involve building a team and having a team around you, and ultimately you are the leader of that team, and that's the difference in business, isn't it? You're not a manager, you're a leader, and management is one skill needed to be a leader, as well as all the other things as well. So, you know, it's interesting, particularly in our business, been a lot of other businesses, and, you know, when you kind of scroll on, you know, social media, there's a lot of people's kind of questions, a lot of people's fears are about their confidence levels, are about their charisma levels, you know. And the question we're really asking today is are those things necessary to build a big business? Minda, I believe you think no.
Yeah, you know, I think, I think leadership is something what you develop over a period of time. But I think that's kind of, when you say leadership, I think it's more like confidence, you know, and I think confidence comes from results, and results come from sometimes, you know, bad results first, you know, I suppose. Results come from experience, I suppose, right? I agree with Alice, okay, that you have to have leadership, or I suppose vision, okay, to go and do something on your own. But I think a lot of times I feel that leadership has been mixed up with you know, basically with confidence, I suppose, and with your ability to do the job, you know. And I think what I see these days mostly, you know, when you watch, I think we spoke about it like in the last episode, I think, about how successful people are, about habits, when we spoke about habits. And it just looks like, you know, the only way to succeed is to kind of, you know, be vegan, have six-pack, okay, wake up in the morning, do marathons, read books, and do all those things, you know, and kind of a lot of people look at it and think, geez, man, I can't do that. That's just not me, you know what I mean? And I think when I started in the business, I think I started in sales without even speaking English, really. I mean, I could barely read and write, kind of thing. And I think I ended up building one of the biggest teams in the country, kind of a few years down the line. I don't know how much leadership I had, you know. I had just desire or hunger, I suppose, you know, to try. You know, I don't think I was a great leader in the beginning. I mean, I was failing at most of the things. The only thing I had was that I didn't quit and I turned up next day, and that was my leadership. Maybe what Alice said, I just led myself back in next day, you know what I mean? But I don't think I had that much of a leadership skill set then, and I definitely didn't have enough confidence. So I think from that perspective, when people look at it, it's like, you know, you have to have like this amazing, like, public speaking, people have to love you, you know, and that type of stuff. I think for some people that happens, for some people doesn't, you know, and I don't think that's actually the biggest thing, you know, in order for you to be successful. You know? I think for me, perseverance is more important, probably.
I think it is. I think you do need to be a good public speaker. You do need to have charisma.
But you know what? Like, I was thinking about. Sorry, Marish. Yeah, I was just thinking about what Minda said. Like, where he came to the country not knowing English and all that stuff, and then had to develop a lot of other skills, which, you know, is what Vish was saying. You have to develop many skills to become a leader. But what do you think that when you, just because you didn't know the sales skills, or maybe didn't know the business skills, or maybe didn't know how to speak English, for example, like an English person, or the jokes and whatnot, do you think that's the reason you weren't do you think that make you not have good leadership skills? Is that, or is it you had it, you just had to like put investment in different things to add up to it? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I suppose just the thing, okay, on top of me not speaking English, I was the guy who was late everywhere all the time, from school days kind of thing, you know, from uni. I missed most of my lectures. I actually had 60% attendance in school kind of thing. So based on, I don't know how people manage leadership. Now, again, leadership is such a vast topic, so we could go into loads of things in here, you know, but I'm just saying that how we imagine, you know, like leadership as some sort of a charisma and being able to lead people, and as if without that you cannot achieve something in life, you know. I don't think so. Actually, if you look at a lot of successful people, even like Steve Jobs, he's a very inspirational guy, okay, but he wasn't really liked by anybody around him, kind of thing, isn't it? Like he didn't have the greatest people skills and stuff like that, but created a big business, So there's different things like what Vishal said. Maybe if you say all those skills add into leadership, but I think what I'm trying to say that from the outsider's look, you could look at somebody who definitely does not look like a leader, looks actually like a failure completely, and that person could actually become successful. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Do leaders need to be liked?
Say it again, Michelle.
What?
Do leaders need to be liked?
Depends what industry, or what are you actually trying.
Good point.
Exactly, yeah.
I was thinking about that when I was thinking of Steve Jobs, because he's a guy that like not many people liked working with because he was just very hardcore, and not many people were like very calm about it. And then, sorry, Marish, I know like you want to say, but like based on that, I think at some point he must have helped somebody when they really wanted to show, like must have looked after somebody in his business to create a relationship that is like we ride or die kind of thing. I don't know. That's how I think. What do you think, Marish, though?
I think it starts with the definition of what people think leadership actually is. A lot of people think leadership is about being an influence on other people. Well, you need to be an influence on other people to be successful. A lot of people can be successful just by themselves. Like you don't necessarily need to have a following. You don't necessarily need to have to put inspiration on other people to become successful. I think the question is, do you need leadership to become successful? No, you don't need leadership. Like you were talking about with the Steve Jobs example, you yourself creating success in theory, that creates leadership anyway, doesn't it? Like if you go out and create success, people want to follow you. People naturally get inspired by you. But do you need the actual traits of leadership? Do you need to like have this? I need to be good at public speaking. I need to be this person that goes out and has a strong presence in every room. Can you be quite conservative? Can you be a little bit to yourself? Of course you can. You can be whatever you want to be. Yeah.
So you're talking.
It's necessarily like that you have to. Sorry, Peter, but I don't think you necessarily have to have these defined traits of leadership, and that creates success. I think the word in that sentence is successful, not leadership necessarily. Leadership is just of one method or one form that can create that success. But the powerful word there is success. Can you create success through other means? Yeah, of course you can. Of course you can.
So you're talking about like having a drive and having a like vision, like that people will like, and be true to it, that people would actually connect to it and they were like, I want to do the same thing. Can I come with you? Is that what you mean? So you don't have to really like promote it out there, like Vishal was saying, for example. You don't have to be like the person that, be able to like speak in front of people, be charismatic or anything.
I'm saying you do. I'm saying you do, Peter.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, cool. But so is that what you mean, Marish? Is where you have to be more of a visionary, you have to be in your own game to be leading yourself kind of thing, which is actually standards, I guess, rather than the leadership itself.
Sometimes you think like leadership is a trait. Sometimes really, really strong, powerful leaders have traits about them that are actually uncopyable, that actually the influence that you'd have on other people is influence that you wouldn't want the people that you're trying to influence to have, because you're trying to create people to do things in a certain systematic way, whereas you're the person that's say the entrepreneur of the business. You're naturally going to create maybe unfollowable traits. Maybe that's not necessarily, is that leadership? Is that like to turn around and say that I'm going to do stuff that other people that's bullshit. That's bullshit.
Yeah, I don't agree.
What do you think, Reese? What do you think, Reese? Reese, what do you think?
Do you know what? I'm kind of 50-50 with everyone. I'm kind of listening to everyone's points, and I think this is probably what everyone's doing, because at the start of it, I obviously had this in my head, and I was like, this is what I think it is. Then when I listened to Vish, I'm like, oh shit, actually, that kind of makes a point. And I do get what Marish is saying. I mean, for me, and again, it is very, very true what Marish said, or Vish, I can't remember who it was. It does depend on where you are and what kind of atmosphere you're in and what business you're actually in. Being a successful person, Instagram influencer, do you have to have a big following doing that? No, but you can become very successful at it. I'm like, for me, when I was in this business or kind of any other roles that I've done, leadership for me was more of like like a skill set. It is a skill set that you do learn. And, you know, when even from back in the days in school, when you used to do, you know, parent teacher days, and they used to go, oh yeah, you're a natural leader and stuff like this. But I think for me is to be able to influence or motivate, you know, a certain group of people towards a common goal. I think that's what it is mostly for me. And do I feel like if you want to expand and you want to become big, do I feel like you need that? 110%. But do I feel like you would need that to become successful in life? No, probably not. But it depends on what we're talking about.
We're talking about the world of business, right? And surely a bigger business counts as more successful in general, right? Now, a YouTuber or Instagrammer, anyone who makes their living on social media, that, you know, they're seemingly alone. But we understand the culture nowadays is a very big cancel culture. So how, when that person is involved in a scandal in their personal life, or even through their social media, how quick does their following deplete? So
exactly,
they are leading still. They are leading still, and you know, I feel like I mean I'm an introvert, and I'm still an introvert, and I don't like, you know, I joined the sales industry not liking human beings, not liking talking to people, I don't want them around me. Why are you speaking to me? You carry on with your life, I carry on with my life, right? That type of thing. But I feel I had to develop this, as Marius was saying, this charisma of walking into the room and people know the fuck that you're there, and being able to stand on the stage and speak in a certain way. Because as you said, your definition was quite good. It's about inspiring people, did you say, towards a common goal. So the more people I have inspired towards this goal, technically the more successful my business is.
100%.
Isn't it? And that's what and doing things right. And then sorry, 1 second though. But Marius was talking about uncopyable traits and stuff. I mean, to me that was just bullshit, because that's almost
going back to what Minde was talking about Steve Jobs. Like, I mean, when I learned about, I've spent a lot of time recently studying him, but when watching how his life developed, there was not one thing that Steve Jobs really did that you can't put your finger on one real thing that Steve Jobs really did that made other people turn around to him and be like, "Fuck, I just want to be like Steve Jobs." Like, it's not like it's not like he was there leading by example. And again, it's going back to the question. The question, I'm not saying leadership's but like it's not necessary. Of course it's necessary. Of course it's a good habit to have, yeah, in order to create success for you. But I'm saying, is it necessary? It's not necessary, especially in today's day and age. I feel like the world's changed. I think a lot of people are making money through easier means, creating success through easier means. I think it's all about working smarter these days instead of working harder and feeling like you got to have this big influence over a big group of people. I think now, in this day and age,
we also know that Steve Jobs was a dickhead in his personal life. He dismissed the child that was his or not, right? So I believe care is is a big part of leadership as well. But in the same breath, there's stories of him buying his secretary a car because she was 5 minutes late because a car broke down as well. So
yeah, but I think that's what it is. Like, anyway, Minde wants to say something.
No, it's one thing I was going to say that before when Charles said, like, I think when the way I look at this topic in general, that this idea of leadership, I think, where it comes from a lot of social media, presence these days, and I think more people in leadership, they actually are measuring it based on how many followers you nearly have, kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. So Michelle, as you said, like, of course, if I want to have a huge company, of course I have to become a leader, I have to be able to speak and stuff like that, right? But again, Elon Musk, is he a great public speaker or not? Well, I don't know. I mean, he seems nervous a lot, okay? Like, and I don't know if he's a great public speaker, but he's just super, super passionate about his stuff. So, and I think people follow him because it looks like he's talking from his heart, kind of thing, isn't it? And that's why Tesla probably, and shares gone up. And I think a few times when they were in really horrible kind of state, he still had some people kind of, following him and, got the money and that type of stuff. But because I wouldn't say, I think he's quite introvert as well, based on, I'm not a psychologist, I can tell from his body language, seems like he's quite uncomfortable in some places, but he's just pushing through, And what I was trying to say in the beginning, that I think my issue is that not about not helping people, but I think that a lot of people are trying to kind of influence people before they influence themselves, and what my point is that actually you can start any journey, and being completely crap. You know what I mean? Which I think in a lot of things what I needed in our business, I wasn't that good at all. But I was just willing to learn, and I was hardworking, and I was a great follower, and I was just watching other people kind of thing. And bit by bit, as probably what Vishal says, eventually end up developing and being great kind of thing. But my point is that actually, is it necessary kind of to start with? I don't think it is. You know what I mean? And I think people should stop thinking about how many people follow them in the first place and just do their own shit. And when you do your own shit and you become really good at it, you start inspiring people naturally. But I think the purpose of it should not be I'm trying to inspire somebody. Purpose is I want to do the best I can. You know, and that's
what people will follow anyway.
Yeah.
I agree with Linda, yeah, for sure.
You can start off shit and develop it along the way, but how far do you get before it's developed?
Because it could take years, couldn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
definitely.
I mean, here's an interesting thought. While Mide was talking there, and I listened carefully, you know, to a lot of what everybody said. Here's an interesting thought for everybody. I genuinely believe, and I always believe that, well, at least in the last, you know, quite a few years, that knowing what you want and being 100% sure that that's the path you want to take makes you already a leader. You know what? Because the same like they said earlier, that obviously as long as you enjoy what you do and you are willing to do whatever it takes, you will develop any qualities you need to develop. So you'll develop public speaking, you'll develop, I don't know, solution finding, you'll I don't know, you'll inspire people, you'll develop any qualities you need to develop as long as you know what you want. And I believe as well that people like Elon Musk, Richard Branson and others did not want to inspire anybody in the beginning. They did not necessarily want to create any following. They were true visionary who had this sparkle, this idea, and they thought, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to create. I'm doing it because I believe in it, or I'm going to achieve this with it, or, you know, because that's how they define success. And then they didn't necessarily have certain qualities. They just had this amazing idea. They just had this inspiration that, okay, I'm going this way. And then all of a sudden they started learning this and the other, and they turned everything around in their favor. And I think when you are so strong and you really know where you're going, by default you become this thing we call a leader. Because unfortunately, from my point of view as well, there's so many people out there, and we're talking now about social media. We talk about very young people as well, who it's so easy to watch cool pictures on social media, Instagram, Facebook, so on and so forth. You know, everybody can do that. Everybody can put a picture out there, I don't know, in front of a rented Ferrari or whatever, you know, say, hey, look, this is what I achieved or what I've achieved. The reality is, you know, that's Photoshop, yeah, of course. There you go. Thanks, Reese and Binde. But what people really like, and I think that's the thing that everybody, you know, is quite genuine about, and all these people who we call successful in their own right, they were really true to themselves. They were so sure that about what they wanted to achieve that they just created all the necessary qualities. And I think, you know, we can all talk about that, because Vishal, for example, you said that obviously you weren't necessarily keen on spending loads of time with people and socializing when you started. And I remember, you know, when you joined our business a little bit, because, you know, we had a chance to work together for a little bit. And obviously throughout the years, you know, as we progressed in the business, we worked closer. But I think you did whatever it took, because you fell in love with the business, you fell in love with building a career, with, you know, learning how to learn, how to run a business. And, you know, you did whatever it took, and I did the same, and, you know, Marius did the same, and everybody here did the same. So I think that made us leaders, if that makes sense. Did we make a mistake? You know, I don't know, you know, probably, but when you look back, you know, that's what people follow. Yeah.
So Alice, I've got a question for you and other people then. It's the same one I asked Minde. So it seems like we're all kind of agreeing that there's different things needed that all add up to leadership, right? So it seems the question is not, is leadership an essay trait, but how many of those, how well-rounded do you need to be before you can progress to levels that you may want to progress to? So the first thing you said was, as long as you're passionate and determined, know where you want to go, you'll figure out the things on the way there. But my question again is, how far can you get without having some of the other things? So if I'm really passionate and determined and I know where I'm going, does that mean I can have shit personal standards for a period of time and I'll still get quite far? Is that what you're saying, Alex? Because I'm saying that you kind of need to be a little bit all-rounded,
Versatile. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
any decent level of success.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. I agree
go
with
on.
what you say, Vishal, fully, but I also agree with the fact that too many people wait in the shadow until they believe they are perfect or they are at a decent level in terms of so many different skills, and that is what is holding them back. So I also believe that I would rather push ahead without having all of those amazing qualities you mentioned, and I still can guarantee I'll still be more ahead than somebody who will constantly be waiting in the shadow until they are perfect or decent or all-rounder. I'm a big believer that, in the past few years, and I've proven that myself as well, that sometimes you just need to start. Just start. I'm sure, I'm certain, I know where I'm going, and I'm going to achieve it bit by bit. All of those qualities might not be all equal. If I was to do to design a round wheel, well, a wheel is round anyway, sorry guys, you know what I mean. I'm a bit nervous as well. Then obviously, that wheel might not be
I'm
perfect,
agreeing,
isn't it, right? Because if I wait until
Have a drink.
Sorry, I
he said,
couldn't
have a
hear you
drink.
properly.
He said, have a drink, and you'll be calmer.
Yeah.
But yeah, go.
But Alice,
I got myself a tea.
By
so
the way,
there
you
you go.
sound still hate people.
Alice, to me, it's a given. It's a given that they're already trying and they're not waiting in the shadows. Like I'm assuming that they're already within our business or they're already trying to build something. Let's not forget one of the best traits of a leader is originally, once upon a time, they were a great follower as well. So if they were a great follower, they would have some sort of leader, mentor, coach pushing them into positions where they feel like they're not ready anyway. So to me, it was a given that they're already, trying to.
They wanted to do something. Yeah. Do you know what? I'll tell you what happened to me, and when I realized what leadership and like there was a pivotal moment. I think it was 2018, like the summer. I know, like the 3-4 months of summer. I literally wanted to study a little bit leadership because I didn't understand it. It was a little bit like when I came in, a little bit like yourself, Vish. I wasn't like you were not comfortable with people and talking. I didn't know what marketing means, so I had to learn stuff. But I started studying leadership, but at some point, and for me, how I understand it and how I kind of help people understand and teach the guys or work with the guys, mentor the guys that I work with. First, you have to know what you want and how far you want to get and exactly what you want to achieve with your life or at a period of time. And then second, you have to learn how to do it. You have to give like some sort of a value, right? It has nothing to do with leadership. How good you are, like for example, coming on time for a meeting, it's a value that you have to give to the person that you go meeting with. So it's nothing really to do with leadership. It's like playing your own part. It's like, it's not really, you're just playing your own part. And after you learn how to do stuff, like for example, you get really good at sales and really good at coaching, which are skills, hopefully you all agree. I think for me, what happened was I was being in the same situation for a while because I knew those things. But one thing, understanding clarity of what leadership is, wasn't there. And for me, what I understood was that leadership is basically getting what I have and passing it on to other people. And then people that, of course, that have my aspirations and want to go the same way, want to do the same thing, give the same value, right? And for me, that was passing on that and helping them, like, get to the skill level or to like the ambition that I am, was what leadership was. And I think most of the other things, once that clicked in my head, that I'm just doing it now for my team. I'm not doing it to build a team, but I'm doing it for my team so they can taste what I'm tasting right now because I find it valuable now because I'm really good, right? And I think that's when my whole business like went 10, 20 times more pretty much, right, than it was. And I think that was the pivot moment. I think that was the only thing that would differentiate anything else that we've kind of mentioned for me, and actual leadership. Giving that to people. It's just a thought a day. I don't know. Maybe you not agree, but for me, that was my story at the time.
Do you know what? I think the question that we're all kind of asking ourselves, and I don't know why I feel like people are trying to avoid this thing, is that, some people agree with it, some people disagree with it, some people think you need it, some people think you don't need it. But leadership still gets spoken about whether you'd like it or whether you don't. And we all talk about, you need to have these individual skills or you need to have these certain traits in what leadership is, right? So the question I'm going to ask you lot is, if there's all these different parts of leadership that create this whole ball of leadership, what's the most important parts then?
That's a good question. I think we all agree leadership is important, but what aspect of it is the most important, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
The most important part, in my opinion, is understanding the process of what is necessary to create success in the business that you're in.
Yeah.
Like for me, I don't feel like in terms of direct sales, it's not like I went out my way to learn leadership as a topic because I felt like I need to be a really, really good leader. I just understood that, hold on a second, there's certain traits of leadership that is very, very necessary for me to create the success I want to create in the industry that I'm in. So whatever the traits are that I need to get good at, I'm just going to get really, really good at them traits. However, there may be industries, there may be other forms of methods like I don't know, I'm just saying the YouTube thing because you guys mentioned it earlier, but like YouTubers or whatever, where actually you're and again, this all depends on what we class as leadership. Like, what's the actual definition of leadership? We're turning around and saying leadership in the way we're talking is like the leadership is personal standards, is things like leading from example or work ethic or whatever. It was every necessary thing that we would think in the direct sales industry. But again, could you turn around and say that, hold on a second, just sitting down and understanding the process that you need to do in order to complete a certain task for yourself, yeah, is that a form of leadership? In other industries, yeah, people may get influenced by that. You could turn around and say, like in football, there's some really
come here again.
Here we go, yeah.
In Liverpool.
Let's go back to YouTubers.
Footballers that, I don't know. I remember back in the days I used to play Championship Manager or Football Manager, they call. And you used to see certain footballers that would have a 20 out of 20 rating in an ability labeled leadership. And you see some footballers that have like a 1 out of 20. They're still successful in the industry they're in. It's not necessarily like, oh, hold on a second, they need to have that leadership trait in order to success.
That's
so
true.
it's very, very dependent on the type of industry you're in, but what's the most important trait? Understanding what is necessary in order to create the success in whatever you're in.
My answer is yes to the question.
100%. Yeah.
Why is the question going there, Nib?
It's either an undercover Liverpool fan or a plastic Man United fan. I don't know which one it is, but.
By the way, guys, the people that like the viewers, guys, share with us your take on it. What you think, what you agree with, what you don't agree. You can just put it down there, please do, because there's a lot of different views and opinions on it, which is I like that because I learned a lot as well. Guys, I want to ask you about something. Have you ever felt or have ever trained anyone? Because I definitely felt it in myself, where from a leader or trying to be a leader, I become a manager. And it's a really, really good question that Alice asked on the group before we started. But I think it's really important because it happened to me. It happened when I was under stress, or I was trying to hold on to what I have. I don't know. Like for me, it was like at some point I thought I achieved a lot or achieved something, and I didn't want to go back. That's my take, and I just becoming that manager that trying to keep everything. Have you ever experienced that, Minde, for example? Have you ever experienced that, or have you coached people? A part of me that done that. No, Minde, it's okay.
It's quite interesting, actually, that's what I was about to mention before. That sometimes, we mix leadership probably with standards. What Vishal said, and I think when we have some great standards in ourselves, whatever we believe is a great standard, we kind of believe other people should behave the same way. And I think that was definitely one of my mistakes. When I started in the business, and I was working in sales. When I say in the business, it sounds like some sort of a, secret society or something like that, right? But of course we work in direct sales. But when I found out that I could actually build my own team, I can get kind of financing, finance, to have my own marketing company, I was so pumped, and I could never understand why other people are not. I really could not comprehend that some people maybe can't get out of bed. And to be fair, I think me and Marish had some great stories about us going out and, till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. But because I was pumped, I was still back, in the office at 9 a.m. doing the stuff, and doing whatever I had to do, to be successful. So, but at the same time, for example, I would judge Alice knows that, and I'm on the louds, if you can get back to the 6 people, you're going to see that in it. But Alice knows how much Alice before, when Alice used to go to pub and drink a cup of tea, you know what I mean? I was like, come on, Alice, you know, we work in sales, come, everyone's just here excited, drink some beer. Alice, I don't like beer, you know, and then
She's got
eventually
different standards.
Little Baileys, do you remember in the road trip in the pub, and she would have this little Baileys. Amount of shit she got from me, completely unnecessary kind of thing years and years ago. And then I ended up going to New York to Tony Robbins seminar. And then there's a 10-day, you know, fast, and I became first-time vegan, whatever. And I didn't drink alcohol for like 2-3 months myself. And I do remember Alice drinking Baileys and me drinking a cup of tea. Just, and Alice like, you remember, you know, when you used to give me shit, you know, when I was at the pub and drink a cup of tea with my sales team. And I think that's what the issue is, you know, like, and I think this idea that sometimes you think like if you are charismatic, you think that other people, if they won't be charismatic, they won't do that. And I think I learned that from mistakes. I was training Reese, and to be fair, I think why I used to give Reese so much shit, because he used to be late all the time, but so was I when I started. And sometimes when you watch someone else doing that stuff, you know what I mean, like you kind of, because you went through that hoop kind of thing, you turn around, you give them shit, but you don't give them time. You know, sometimes it takes you 2 years to learn something, and if someone else that you are coaching is not going to pick it up in a month or two, you're getting pissed off. And
Yeah.
you know,
I think even like when I learned some stuff, right, and then I was so proud about it, and I wanted to show it off to my team, as they're like, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing that," but like 2 weeks ago I was doing it. Right?
yeah, and you put your people down, but then actually we call
And they
that
saw you doing it. It's not like they didn't.
my capacity of not being late, now I thought that's leadership in it. So basically I start judging everybody who's coming in late. Now this is a big topic about being on time late, and there's so many different opinions, right? But I am definitely an example of people who couldn't be on time in the beginning. I figured it out. And Reese is another example. You know, some people, you know, maybe shouldn't drink. Okay, because I know a lot of people who they have 2-3 drinks and they definitely won't rock up next day, you know, like, or they won't get the result kind of thing.
No, I've never seen that in Reese.
That's one of the reasons why Reese probably don't drink. But at the same time, like when me and Marish used to go out, you know, loads of other people, you know, like doesn't matter how you felt, but you had this kind of commitment to your own goal. And that's why I think persistence is very important. And if I had to say which one is the most important thing of leadership, for me, like Marish said, like to be able to do your own job, I think for me, is just to be able to keep bloody doing what you have to do, regardless how you feel. That would be for me leadership, you know. Doesn't matter if you was drunk, doesn't matter if you was ill. Like I never took a day off. I used to be ill every year. I don't know how many tablets I ate kind of thing in Lithuania. How come I stopped being ill when I was in sales? Had no time for that. I was just too pumped about going, hitting my goals, and setting goals, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I think this intensity to get your stuff done. You know, Gary Vaynerchuk had this really good video recently. I know this 2-minute video. Remember about the life and work balance, isn't it?
Yeah,
when
that was really good.
Look at other people, what other people think, how my life looks like, whatever. Man, shut up, man. Just do your stuff. And if you think your shit doesn't matter, just fucking keep doing it.
I think that's why some people lack in it as well, is because I feel like, because it was good there what you said of, you know, because I'm finding that now as well, because I was the guy that used to come in late and all this kind of things. But I think it hurts a little bit more when you see people that you respect doing it, because you're like, man, trust me, I've done it. I've got the t-shirt. Don't do it. It doesn't work. But I feel like the reason people maybe don't have these leadership skills enough, I don't know if you guys agree, you can let me know after, but it's because I feel like sometimes exactly what it is here, people have different opinions on leadership, don't they? So maybe because, as I said, my opinion on leadership is that people would follow me towards a common goal. But maybe let's say Peter doesn't agree with that. So I feel like what some people do is if they look at anyone that they're coaching or that they're mentoring and they're doing something that they, as in me, doesn't feel is right, then maybe I'm like, well, you're not a leader, you're a follower instead. I don't know what you guys feel about that, if you get what I mean.
I think the thing that we're debating is, I think no one disagrees with anything that we're saying. What we're trying to debate is the priority order of aspects, right? So for me, if you know, to answer your question, for me, the number one aspect of leadership is not what Marish Mende said. It's for me, it's per your personal standards. And as has been mentioned 2 or 3 times already, you don't go into leadership trying to lead. That's not the way it works, right? It's do what you do, and you end up getting a following, end up creating a following. And I think that all starts with your own personal standards and the way that you operate. On
that point, sorry, just on that, I completely agree with the concept you're bringing across. But if you're creating a following of an idea that's gonna I don't know, potentially run the business to the ground, then it's creating it's like that wild, what's that show on Netflix? That wild, that O show. Anyone seen that O show documentary?
No, you're on your own there, man.
Wild Country on Netflix. This guy created this massive following.
The one you told, yeah.
Created this massive following, tens of thousands of, hundreds of thousands of people. What was it for? There wasn't any purpose to it yet. So yeah, you can create a big following, but the following's got to mean something. So for me, yeah, I like priority order, like you said. Okay, cool. Like the personal standards is great, but it's only great if the idea is worth something. So for me, the main thing is being creative.
When I talk about standards, I'm talking about
something.
When I talk about personal standards, I'm talking about high personal standards in the way that you operate. You know what I mean?
I've seen businesses with high personal standards that the businesses just collapse to the ground. Whereas I've seen people with low personal standards, but because the idea is good, ends up creating really like big successful business out of it. So I think
at some point high personal standards were created.
Yeah, I was thinking about the same, because like every business is. So
you can't run a multi-million-pound business with low standards in the way you operate. People just will not follow you. Fuck the idea. They will not follow you as a human being. Human being. I'm talking about even the basics of saying thank you to the waitress or the waiter, cleaning up your table as you walk away, that type of stuff. Putting your chair back in the restaurant when you walk out from there. So, you spoke a little bit about, going out and having drinks and all that kind of stuff on a school night. But I was actually the opposite when I say school night. When we have work the next day or business the next day or whatever. But I was the opposite. I
wasn't hardcore enough, Vishal, that's all.
Well, for me, it's my personal standards, because it was like, how can I ever turn around and say to someone that that's something you shouldn't do if I was doing it myself? And and my personal belief is you shouldn't go get pissed till 3 a.m. before when you got shit to do the next day. So personal standards, and when people see you hold yourself to such a high level, you kind of got to be careful, like what Minde said, you end up demanding from other people. But if you just continually focus on holding yourself to a very, very high standard, people get inspired by that, because they go, fuck, if he or she can do that shit, then I as well.
But I think if you're trying to hold other people to that standard, you look like a dick. Because sometimes the problem is not that you have great standards. By the way, me and Marius going out at 3 a.m. is a high standard, because we were so pumped about
it's hard to do it.
Even when we went out till 3 a.m., we were still doing the job next day. Most
I think
people
I would agree with Minde.
That's not high
with
standard.
Minde on that one.
That's a good reaction, but that's not high standard.
No, you can. I think you can interpret that in a different way, but I think it's leadership, because if you can do the job in the morning where people rely on you, where people need you, if you're still there and you give 100%, and then you get the result, I think that's leadership, and I think that's very important. And
it's leadership. So it's not high standards. It's leadership.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I think it's high standards as well, because you still do what you said you're gonna do, and you don't again.
Depends standards in what, isn't it?
Can I say something as well?
For some people, could be climbing a mountain with a bottle of vodka. Well, no, actually, by the way, that's how it's been told before, right? But it's a standard, but somebody will be, I'm jogging around there. Maybe just look at different things. So maybe for me, for example, having heart-to-heart conversation with Marius or with somebody who's really in a bad condition and sit there with a pint till 2, 3 a.m. listening about his life is a very high standard. Because I know this is actually...
Is it bad condition at the moment, or in general? Is it not in a good mood?
That's a high standard. That's high standard of care if he needed that support in that time. But Alice, what were you going to say?
Yeah.
Sorry, Alice.
So what I was about to say might disappoint some of you. Basically, is that I think, when you go out with, like you said, Minde with marriage, and obviously in this business and in others, you build relationships outside of the business as well. And sometimes, the people you're working with, they really need a shoulder to cry, or they really need somebody to talk to, and like Vishal said, to support them. But I also think it goes back, this example you gave me, to the fact that people do have a life and people want to enjoy themselves. And obviously, especially in the business we're in, we have a lot of very young people And it goes back to that video you posted with Gary the other day about, you know, having a life and about enjoying. So if this is what you felt like doing, you went and you felt like doing. And I don't necessarily believe it has anything to do with having high standards necessarily in the business, because when I'm out, I'm out. I do whatever I think I need to do at that time for me to enjoy, because I'm a human being. And from time to time, or all the time, for some human beings, we need to let the steam out and have fun, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to the next day, if I genuinely know where I'm going, and if I genuinely, if that is really my purpose, like Mario said, that my goal, you know, then I will do whatever I need to do, regardless of having a headache, regardless of being drunk, regardless of not sleeping at all, because I remember that, hey, that was my goal. I was going somewhere. And just because I went out with my mates last night, it does not mean that I'm not going to run a business anymore now. It does not mean I don't want to be as successful as I wanted to be. Because from my point of view, the two have no correlation. I have to do whatever I have to do in my own personal life, you know, if that's what I feel like doing, or if that's what I think, you know, I'm supposed to do. But at the same time, when it comes to business, I will do. So for me, the two are not related.
I think
that's what I want to say. I just wanted to say.
I think that's a new age thing that is flowing around on social media, that people think that they can have the best of both worlds, or, you know, in English we say have their cake and eat it as well. I think parts of the core of success in any, you know, in any sector is still the same, where there are tough decisions to make, and sometimes we must choose preparation over having fun or letting off steam, or whatever you call it. And I felt like in that moment, I chose that to be prepared for the next day was better than going out or letting off steam. I don't fully believe that you can have the best of both worlds at all times. And if you want to have a personal life, then you can have it. No, sometimes you need to be able to make decisions, which we all have, by the way.
So,
and we will sacrifice certain social things. Yeah.
So can I just, Vishal, with what you said?
So do you think that, sorry, Mario, just 1 second. So do you think, Vishal, on that note, so do you think on that note, does that mean that you become a better leader because you had to choose wiser?
You get there quicker, I believe, because that's why I said, I've already answered that by saying my number one aspect leadership is
that leadership necessarily?
I think so, because if you look at the sporting world, for example,
okay.
If you look at the sporting world, if you were to go out on, you know, any kind of weekday and before a match, you know, now of course there's stories of like people like Gascoigne and stuff, and these special footballers who would turn up to a match drunk and still do well. But in general, to get sustained success over a long period of time, you must be prepared. You can't do it drunk. You can't do it ill. Now, what Minde spoke about was getting shit done. He's talking about, hopefully, anyway, I agree with what he said as well, but I think he's talking about, and disagree with me if I'm wrong, Minde, he's talking about the minority of the times when you're not on it, when you feel a bit ill, when you've got a bit drunk. Have I had late nights? Of course. Have I had sleepless nights? Of course. But the majority of the way I operate must be to a high level and a high standard. And I know that if I go out, which I have done, by the way, it's not like I haven't, but when I have done, then I'm going to have to find a different dimension of myself to make sure tomorrow goes well still. But I can't, that's not sustainable every day over many years.
And no one's not every day. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we all agree on that.
But therefore, I would then always make the choice to not enter that minority, is what I'm saying, unless I really, really have to. Do you get my point?
I'll tell you what, Vishal, everything you've said, like I completely agree with, to the point that it's not something that, like, I don't think it's not important for my business. I run a business with that I enforce that way of thinking, where high standards is important, and all the things that you mentioned. However, I think what my problem with high standards is, when we enforce too high a standard onto the people that we're training, I feel that what it does is it prevents them from thinking for themselves sometimes. And in a business that sometimes needs to adapt to a lot of change and a lot of modification, and as the world develops and there's new ways of doing things, I want guys to be easily adaptable towards anything, any sort of change. And sometimes,
remember, I'm not talking about enforcing marriage.
Hmm?
I'm talking about enforcing it. I'm talking about personal high standards.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I agree. But like high standards in general, yeah. If I was to turn around and be like, right, this is the way to, but I've got to be prepared to change. I've got to be prepared to modify myself. I've got to be prepared that, look, hold on a second, this is really, really important right now because it's necessary for the business. But hold on a second, in 3 months' time, it might not be that important anymore. Yeah. I worked with a client at the start of 2020. Yeah. With a client with the start of 2020, where, in my opinion, it's not like standards wasn't important, but I felt like what was important with the client I was working with back then and what was important with the client that I'm working with today is actually different. It's not the relevance that
I don't see
importance.
with personal high standards. I mean, in terms of specifically representing a client, the way I operate as a human, what's that got to do with who I'm representing or adapting to change? That's got nothing
But that's
to do
a
with
good
it.
one, Michelle. How you operate as a human, I think it could be such a diverse thing. And I would completely agree with you. Probably about still 5-6 years ago, I was the guy. And even though I'm arguing the point that me and Marish used to go out, whatever, but I never been late for like 15 years kind of thing, even though I used to back in the day kind of thing, right? But I think where my issue was that I judged other people based on my personal standards. For example, I like to read. So when people used to say, "Oh, I never read a book," I used to think, how can you develop without reading a book, innit? Well, like, I don't watch TV. And I think that was kind of fed my ego a little bit, innit? I don't watch TV, I read, I fucking, when first time I went to Tony Robbins, shit, like, oh, I don't eat meat, I don't do this, I do, and suddenly you start thinking as if yourself, like as if that's my highest standard, which allows me to become more successful. But does it really affect in business? You know what I mean? Like, and now I'm thinking there's a lot of people who are doing really well who don't read, and I'm learning from them kind of thing. There's a lot of people who, watch a lot of TV, and I agree with you, Vishal, as well, to a certain degree that actually, of course, to a certain level, you can't really be watching TV 4 hours a day and get to a certain level. Does make sense. But I think my issue was that I used to judge people and I used to think that this is my personal standard, you know what I mean? Like, but I don't know. I'm right now, I won't say. I think I just saw so many people succeeding from so many different walks of life that I just know my head say, hey, are you doing whatever you're doing? Are you doing it? In our case, can you sell? Can you train? Good, If you're a singer, can you sing? But it doesn't matter, what drugs you've been doing. I mean, it does matter in personal life, but it doesn't really matter on stage, innit? You know what I mean? Like, from the purpose of successful achievement in sport, business, or whatever, you know what I mean? So,
That's true. I don't
know. My big issue was a judgment, I suppose.
We've got a question from Eleonora.
Sorry, can Michelle say something and then go?
Yeah, 1 second. Yeah, just to finish up on that, I've been really careful to try not to talk about other people. So even you and Marish and Alice are talking about other people, and I get it. It happens, and it's happened to me as well incorrectly, where you judge other people because you got high standards, it feeds your ego, etc., etc. Or Marish talking about enforcing it. But for me, I was just talking about myself having high standards, and I think one thing that definitely happens from, and why I believe, not in an egotistical way, but why I believe having high personal standards will lead to success is because it feeds my belief when bullshit's happening as well. When you face challenges and when you face adversity and things are going wrong a little bit, you can look back to the way you've operated and feed off that belief. So I totally get what you guys are saying. You face the challenge of personal standards when you incorporate other people in as well. Marish, is that your kids running on?
Yeah. One of my men.
So you definitely face a challenge when you incorporate other people into high personal standards. But that's why I tried to phrase it carefully. It's personal high standards, and all I can ever teach someone is the importance of why they should hold themselves to a high standard, but not the actual standard.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Eleonora. Okay, and it's directed to Alice. So Alice, do you think that leadership is seen different being a woman compared to what is expected as a man?
It's deep.
Yeah, I've seen the question and I was giggling. There you might have seen me. No, I don't really think there is anything different. I think the way we feel sometimes as females, it feels like, we need to do more and we have something to prove. But over the years, I realized that no, it's nothing differently. I think I think we're all, I don't know, I really don't see anything any different. I don't see myself any different. But I think I used to feel as if I have more to prove as a female, that I can be at least on the same level with a male leader, let's say, in our business at least. Maybe because it is quite male dominated. I mean, even now, sometimes when we count, there are more guys in sales, and sometimes, we laugh in the office when we say guys, girls. But no, overall, no, I don't think it is different. I just think sometimes we make it more complicated because most women can be a little bit more emotional, and I definitely used to be a lot more emotional than I am now, and that can cloud your decision making. And because of that, sometimes we can get frustrated, and it feels like other people are getting ahead or becoming more successful just because maybe I don't know, they were born a male. But no, I don't think like that for many years, and I don't think there is anything any different. So yeah, I hope, Eleanor,
maybe it was like
my answer helps you.
maybe like 10, 15, 20 years must have been a little bit different. But I think nowadays everything's quite open. I'm sure like there will be people that like feel a certain way, a little bit like racism, which is a huge topic. But I think in general now it's way better. I've never seen like I see leaders now as a leader, so maybe just me. No matter what they're from, like are they boys or girls or men or women. We got another question from Joe. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Lenora as well. But all right, I'm gonna read it really slow. It's great how knowledgeable you are. Well, no, that's wrong. Guys, thank you. What separates wannabe leaders and actual leader for you guys? How fragile is wannabe leader, and how to set the right base for success as a leader? I'll just throw my view, because I think like that's what I kind of lived by when I was building my business, and as well, not even with my business, but personal life as well. But that's what I believe about leadership is, like, you either want to be or not want to be. Wannabe is usually how I see it. There is different types of leadership. Maybe that my type is certain, but like wannabe leader is, for me, is like the ones that do it for the clap or do it for their own selfish way. And that's where for a while I couldn't build up. Not that I was that much selfish or believe consciously or selfish, but my goal was to hit some goal which maybe didn't include people that were helping me hit it, and therefore people wouldn't kind of follow me, right? And then a real leader for me is like people that, Minde, for example, he looked after me, and Alice and Vishal looked after me, like from the day, like from first day when it was tough, and that's not because of that day and those days and years that made me like multi-millionaire, and I follow him and I help him out and be there for them. That's not the reason. It's because they were there when I needed them. So I think, like, back to what my point before was, like, I realized what leadership is when I start doing things for my team, not for myself. And I wanted them to taste what I tasted and to get the confidence of what I have, because confidence with leadership, like I think Vishal said, or Minde, it goes up together. And yeah. And I think the wannabes are the ones that do it for selfish reasons and, for the clap. Generally, they want to see how cool they are and all that stuff. And then it just buckles because there's never really enough reason to be successful, because it takes sometimes much longer time. And then, yeah, just do it for your team, really, and do it for bigger reason than yourself, or whatever you call it. But that's my take. What do you think, Reese?
I agree, to be fair. I was kind of hoping you'd say something a little bit different, so I could actually have a different take on it. But I guess this is what kind of happens when we spend so much time together. We do think quite on the same page, or sometimes we don't. But I do 100% agree with what you just said. I feel like wannabe leaders is people that want to do it for the recognition, And don't get me wrong, I mean, both sides are good. I always had one thing in my head that any kind of rally we went to, or any kind of Christmas ball we went to, I did say to myself, Reese, you're not here to clap for other people. You're here to fucking win awards. Go up and show them how good you are. And, there's not one award ceremony that I went to that I didn't win an awards. And is that big-headed? To some people, probably yes. But for me, again, it was kind of just to show leadership to other people that it doesn't matter where you've come from. It doesn't matter what you've done before, or, where you've been brought up. It just depends on the kind of traits that you have. And that people will follow you in that kind of way. And yeah, I've to kind of put it in a nutshell. Yeah, I think I want to be leaders as people that do it for the recognition, and people that do it for one. People that do it so other people look at them going, wow, like you look really cool. I think for me, when I was a leader, it was more just to do it, as Peter again said, for myself, but for kind of my future self as well. There was always one thing that Minde said to me that stuck to me forever, was that you never, I don't know if this is word for word, but you were saying you didn't want to in 10 years time have your kids saying to you like, how comes we can't do this or we can't do that? And you didn't even have, oh no, sorry, you used to say my kids said this, but you didn't even have kids yet. But that's exactly what I used to have in my head. And I think that's what made me a good leader, is that I never wanted to be able to turn around in 10 years time and not be able to do something because one day I negged out, or one day I didn't come in, or one day I didn't give 100%. And I think what makes a good leader compared to a wannabe leader is that, again, things that everyone has said it before, is just someone that goes out and just has that grit and has that determination and just wants to go out and put 100% in for what they know they will achieve in the future, compared to someone that just wants the recognition, really. That's my take on it.
Thanks, man. Thank you. So I think we have one more question, and it's from Koku. I don't know if you can put it on for everyone. There we go. Okay. What two most important leadership skills do you need to develop in your own in order to become successful in business? Like, so.
Please rewind the whole video.
Yeah, rewind the video. I think you just joined us here. But like, let's say like in a couple of words, two skills. You do this and you do that. Like Minde, let's go. In a nutshell, to like whatever you meant, just say what you meant, like a couple of words.
Sorry, Vishal want to say something as well.
Okay.
Maybe, do you want to say something to the previous question, Vishal, still?
Yeah, just to add on.
Sorry.
Add on. It's,
Sorry, man.
A wannabe leader is, I think, someone who operates conditionally, so they do things and remember it almost and count it, and then expect something off the back of doing it. And a real leader is just someone, as we mentioned before, is not really trying to lead, but they end up leading, and that's because they do things unconditionally. You know, they just do because it's the right thing to do, and eventually, over a period of time, they will be a leader, but they're not trying to. So yeah, unconditional versus conditional. In regards to Koku's question, I don't think without repeating ourselves, it's gonna be difficult to answer it, but I'll pass it back to you, Minde. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, I think, well, I don't know if it's two, but I think for me, one thing is probably to kind of return back to the kind of beginning of this kind of whole topic, I suppose, right? Is about who you leader for, kind of thing, isn't it? Right? You know, and are you leader for other people, you know, or you leader for yourself, kind of thing. And I think Peter mentioned that, you know, when I used to talk about kids a lot, you know, when people used to say, wow, you work so hard, and you know, what's your motivation? I used to say my kids. And at the time I didn't have any kids, you know, and people say, wow, how many kids you got? And I still say, I don't have any. Well, now I have 3. So like they're running around. If you had any noise in the house, that's obviously my kids, you know, and I think Vishal was laughing. But I think the idea was that I want to work really hard to achieve something. And my motivation was quite personal, my family and people around me, loads of other stuff I want to do. You know, I want to help other people and I want to support charities and stuff like that. So I think the whole point was my why was so much bigger. And if I ever found that actually I lost some sort of motivation or lost some, I don't know, lost belief in myself or whatever, I always just remind myself my why, kind of thing. And when Peter just mentioned kids, I always imagined like, it wasn't really about that. I don't want to say my kids, hey, we can't afford something. You know, I don't mind if I can't afford stuff. You know, it's not an issue. But I think I always wanted to raise kids in a way that I could tell them they can do whatever they want in life, isn't it? So I think my scariest point would be if Isabel or Augustus or one of them, you know, Joris would come to me and say, hey, you know, I would like to, I don't know, whatever, be an actor or do something. And if I turn around and say, of course you can. If they did tell me, like, I don't think I can do something, I don't want to be the guy telling them, yeah, of course you can. But they look at me and I haven't done everything I could, kind of thing. That makes sense. You know, I want my kids to look at me and think, hey, you know what? If this guy came from, I don't know, this country, couldn't speak whatever, went and built business, traveled the world, donates millions for charities, do loads of stuff. If my dad could go from this to this, surely I can go from who I am to whatever I want to be, kind of thing. You know, because I think a lot of times our parents are so good to tell us that we can do anything we want. But I think the question is, how come they didn't do it? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like I never want my kids to ask me, Dad, you know, if you tell me I can achieve my dreams, how come you wasn't chasing yours, kind of thing. And I think now to go back to leadership skills, I think it's just this capacity to have a purpose in life, you know, and the purpose should be much bigger than your finances, you know what I mean? And, you know, and I think for me, that would be one thing. The most important leadership skill for me would be to have that purpose. And the purpose might change as the time goes on, but any given moment when I wake up, I have a purpose. You know what I mean? Like, and that purpose is the reason why I get out, you know, of bed. The purpose is why if I choose to get up at 5 a.m., I can. You know what I mean? If I choose to, whatever I would like to do, fast, go in the field, build a team, or go in rain and lose money and get shitloads of rejection. And I think one more thing, not to get into long one, I think when we mentioned in the beginning about this judging thing, I think it comes down as well about how we think at failure, you know what I mean? Because I think a lot of times we're scared to fail. So we're trying to, I think the people who are trying to do stuff in order to show to other people, they're scared of failing. So they keep on asking recognition from outside all the time. You know what I mean? I think people who have purpose inside, they don't give a shit what other people think. You know what I mean? And I don't mean in a bad way. I know Vishal said you have to have good people skills, whatever. Of course you have to have good people skills. You don't have to be a dick to people. But somewhere deep down, whatever you do, you have to be willing to do it, even no one approves it. I think, and that's leadership for me.
Yeah, that's so crazy, actually. Like, I just realized what you said and how well it links. Like, that's why I was scared to do things in general, like in a business or anything, because I don't want to be. That's why I hated to do competitions, because I was doing it for other people. I wanted to show off for other people. It was for me, really. It wasn't for them. It's so true. And then that's what kind of like crippled me for a while to do new things and expand my comfort zones and stuff, which is good in our skills, yeah. Vish, wanted to add something?
So yeah, just in response to Koku's question, what Minde said, I think what Minde said was absolutely perfect. It was a more self-centric way of looking about yourself. If Koku said two things, so if I was to give a second thing, a way to act with other people is just what I said before: give unconditionally. That's what I believe leadership is. Just give, but keyword is there: unconditionally.
That's it. Benefit of the doubt to the end. It's okay.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And don't judge them based on how you are. You know what I mean? Because I think it's this idea to assume that everyone's doing their best they currently are able to do, kind of thing. Does make sense, right? You know what I mean? Like if like I always think everyone's doing whatever they can do. You know, sometimes you look, oh, this guy is lazy. He's lazy maybe in your standards right now, but for him, he's not lazy, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like he's trying to do the best. You know, like either physically or mentally, we all can improve, and we will improve if we wanted to. But sometimes you are capable to do more physically, but your mentality is not really there, so not end up doing it, isn't it? But you know, there's no reason to judge somebody. You know what I mean? So
perfect. Thank you very much, guys, for coming in today. Spending an hour together. It was really cool to catch up with you anyway. And as well, thanks a lot for everyone that was joining us this evening. Also, if you have any questions, if you have any topics that you guys want us to cover, please email us. Like go on Instagram. So most of you should know Instagrams. If you don't know it, it's universe_advertising. Just drop a text or mail, whatever. I request anything that we want to cover. If you have any questions, let us know. Subscribe. Okay, there we go. Notification below, right? And thank you very much. Have a good weekend, and see you around.
V5 marketing as well, guys.
Double impact group.
There you go.